Well, hello. It might not seem like a long time for y'all, but it's been a long time for me. It's been about 3 weeks since I've recorded something, so I'm going to be a little messy. Hello, I'm Anthony Renteria, and this is A Lonely Critic, and I'm a critic because I'm lonely. So, it's been about 3 weeks since I've last recorded a video. I'm going to try not to touch my face, because that was a criticism that I received, so let me grab something. I'm gonna be twirling this pen. Anyways, so today I finally made my return to the theater after 2, 3, 4 weeks of horrible depression. And of course, I had to come out to see the new film from Steven Spielberg. So yes, the film that I'll watch today and that I'm reviewing is West Side Story from director Steven Spielberg, the one and only, the GOAT, the man himself, the Scarf, as some may know him. And yeah, so before I start with my immediate reactions and impressions and review of the film, I literally just left my screening to my car, and everything's going on in my head right now. I'm processing as we speak. So, as always, I'm not gonna spoil the film or any big moments. And I wanted to, start setting a format, and I thought about it all day at work. And then I forgot to do that before I just pressed this record button. And now I'm recording, so I don't want to stop. So I'm going to try to remember the format. But essentially, first thing I want to say, I already got the spoilers and the introduction out of the way. First thing I wanted to say, because I was thinking about this the other day, is I want to get the biases out. What are my biases? I feel like in film criticism and criticism of anything, everyone comes with baggage of your perspective and your personality and your experiences, all kinds of things. I was thinking oh, that'd be cool if, in the beginning of each video, I kind of lay out my biases, positive or negatives. So yeah, gonna test this out. So I come into this film with a couple of biases. One, I was not anticipating this film at all. The trailers to me seemed really bad. I don't know why. I just didn't like them. Something about it just was rubbing me the wrong way. I think it's also because it's a remake of the original that was made in who knows what year and in what decade. I don't know. I didn't watch that original film, which is another bias. I have no, well, that's not a bias, but that's just extra info that I have no knowledge or experience of the original West Side Story film or the original musical that it's based off. I'm coming into this film pretty much blind, with no experience of West Side Story or the songs or lyrics or anything like that. Another bias is I am a huge, well, I haven't seen that many musicals, but the few musicals I have seen, I love them. So I think I have a general positive bias towards musicals. I love the genre that I've experienced so far, and I think it's a beautiful genre where you can really dig into emotions. Oh, and then a negative bias. This is something I talked to with my friend Williams about. Alright, I don't know Ansel Elgort, alright? And I know there's some stuff going on the internet about him. I don't know exactly what those are. It's probably something to do with women and harassment. I mean, that's probably what it is. But I don't know, so I'm not going to speak to that. But besides that, there's something about Ansel Elgort that I just never have liked. There's something about the way he performs that I just don't enjoy seeing. And I think it's just my taste in what I enjoy seeing performers do. I don't know, there's just something about him that I just don't like. I remember I watched him, or the first time I saw him was in Baby Driver, and I was like, man, I think this movie would be a lot better without him. He just doesn't have the charisma that I enjoy seeing in a performer. So that's all my biases laid on the floor. Oh, and obviously I am a huge fan of Steven Spielberg. I mean, the dude is a legend. The man is a cinema god. I think he deserves that title. Those are all my biases. So immediate reactions and impressions. I'm already 7 minutes in and I haven't even started talking about Alright, the film is a roller coaster. I'll say that. I've heard a lot of positive, amazing takes on this film. People are raving about it. And I read a lot of those reviews and I listened to a couple takes on podcasts and YouTube and stuff, and I was like, I don't know. I mean, when was the last, I don't want to say the last great Spielberg film, but what was the last Spielberg film that felt Spielberg. You know, like that word is almost like his last name is an adjective in a lot of ways. You know, I would say the same thing with like Tarantino or Nolan or Wes Anderson or David Fincher, where, you know, like there's a certain, their voice just feels magic. And I think Spielberg in my lifetime is one of the earliest auteurs that created that magic, that cinema magic. That first time you watched Jaws, that first time you watched Indiana Jones, that first time you watched Jurassic Park, that first time you watched Saving Private Ryan, that first depressing time you saw Schindler's List. You know, all those films capture like this presence and energy and voice and like cinema, how do I say it, like bravado of Spielberg. Maybe that's the wrong word, but there is a certain like energy and attack. You know, like it feels like a film that's coming at you, and you're in your seat and you're pressed back. But, you know, when you watch Jaws, it feels like the film is attacking you. It's pulling out to you, grabbing you, and pulling you in. And I say all that pre-long ramble to say, visually, direction-wise, the cinematography, the compositions, the editing, the entire visual aesthetic, the choreography of Spielberg's West Side Story feels Spielberg. Like, there was so many moments in this film where I was like, oh my god, good god, man, like, where have you been? Like, where were you in Ready Player One? Like, I didn't think that was a bad film, but it didn't feel Spielberg, you know? I can't even remember the last film that I felt, wow, this is Spielberg. And this film feels, like, if you were to tell me, gun to my head, when was this film made? If you were to show me this film right after Jurassic Park, or right after Indiana Jones, or specifically, like, kind of like Indiana Jones, I don't know why it was giving me that vibe, but I think it was the sound cues. Every time there was action and there was a reaction, there was that, you know, almost like a John Williams kind of cue, a score, you know, like that bit that's like, you know, like that. There's something about, like, I think that's an essential piece of Spielberg, is that realization through a musical cue. You know, like a sword shining, glimmering, and then you hear that sound. And I think this film has so many of those moments where just visually, well, the visuals and the score or the music compositions, because it's a musical. Oh, that's the other thing. I didn't even go into the synopsis of the film, but I'll finish this statement. So I say all that with saying a lot of this film is magical in that Spielberg way, which is so crazy. The one thing I was expecting to love about this film was probably the music and the story. You know, West Side Story is a hugely renowned piece of theater, I guess specifically like a musical theater piece written by a legendary writer. I don't want to pronounce his name because I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Stephen Sondheim. I'm sorry, I butchered it. I didn't look it up. I haven't looked it up. I'm sorry. But he wrote it, and he wrote the songs, and then the original compositions or orchestra that follows that piece, I think, is the same in the film. Again, I don't know. I didn't look it up. I'm just going off the credits that I briefly remember, but I don't remember the name, so I'm sorry. And that's something I will improve in next episodes. I want to have, like, you know, credits so I can actually say them right, and pronunciations so I can say that right. But anyways, I was expecting to love that aspect of this film. The music and the score and the lyrics and the story. I was honestly expecting to hate the visuals, the cinematography, the editing. Just for some reason, I felt like maybe Spielberg had lost his touch. His last couple films, though none of them are bad, like I was saying earlier, they just didn't have that magical feeling. And this film, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it had that magical spark. So, with all that being said, I forgot to introduce the synopsis for anyone who doesn't know. West Side Story is a musical that's an adaptation of the original stage play, or whatever the appropriate term is, and it's essentially about two factions. So, essentially, it's a story about Puerto Ricans who have moved to New York, and then these American Caucasians who have been in New York. And then there's these two rebel groups. I forgot the names of them. but the two opposing groups, one are Caucasian and one are the Puerto Ricans, and they are battling, and it's like a turf war scenario, and it's musical. There's a bunch of songs, there's a bunch of music. If you don't like musicals, you probably won't like this film. If you just hate musicals, you will probably dislike a lot about this film, because it is a musical. I wouldn't say it's like a hardcore musical where everything is sung, but it's probably like a 60-40 split of music to normal dialogue ratio. You know, it is not every moment is singing, for anyone who is wondering that. The situation, and then obviously there's a love interest between a Caucasian guy and a Puerto Rican. You know, the mixture of the factions. It's kind of like Romeo and Juliet, I guess. I don't know. But that's basically all you need to know. So back to my immediate reactions and impressions. So yeah, so I said how much I loved how Spielberg it felt, and that was shocking, and that was exciting to see again in the cinema. Like that, it was actually like really amazing. I was like, wow, what it feels like to watch a Spielberg film. I was just thinking like, I don't think I've had that effect in theaters. Like, I don't think I've seen one of his classics in theaters. You know, I didn't see, you know, Indiana Jones in a cinema. I saw it at home on a VHS, on a DVD. You know, I saw Saving Private Ryan on a DVD. I saw Schindler's List on a Blu-ray. You know, like, I've all his films that are classics to me that I've experienced so far. I'm missing a lot in his catalog, or in his filmography. I've seen all those at home, so this is my first experience seeing Spielberg be Spielberg at this caliber in a cinema on a huge, you know, multi-dozen foot screen. And it was amazing, and it was beautiful, and it was inspiring, is all I can say. As an aspiring filmmaker, I was like, wow. Though that's the pinnacle to aim for. And it reminds me of why his name is used as an adjective. So going off of that, I guess the weird, odd thing is that I didn't like the music, which is the one thing I was expecting to absolutely love, because I've heard so much about this, the stage play and the musical, the original. So I don't know if the songs are changed or altered musically or lyrically, but the songs here, I think to me, were the weakest part of the film, which is insanity, because I've only heard brilliant things about this. But for some reason, I don't know, maybe I need to, like, I want to rewatch the film and see if it clicks better, but I wasn't a fan of the music. There was probably two songs, two pieces that I loved, and then every single other piece to me, and this is just my personal opinion, just I guess musically it wasn't in sync with what I like to hear, like my musical ear or my musical taste or what have you. But the rest of them were just completely and absolutely forgettable in a bad way, and none of them sounded unique. And I'm not, and it's weird, like it's just like, especially like the female, the Puerto Rican girl who's like the love interest of the opposing gang of Maria and Tony. I just remember their names. For some reason, all the songs with Maria didn't like. Like I think she has a beautiful voice, and she's a beautiful performer, and she's a great actress. But I think I just don't like that kind of music where it's just that constant high pitch. It almost sounds like operatic. There's something about that I think I'm not a fan of. Like, my musical ear just doesn't like. Like, I don't think the music's bad, objectively. It's just subjectively, my tastes don't align with it, if that makes sense. Which is weird in a film because, you know, like when it's music, I think a lot of people have such unique taste in music. You know, like a lot of the music that I love, that I think is just undeniably music that literally makes me cry. Like, I can listen to it in 5 seconds, begin to cry, because it inspires such a huge emotional reaction. I can show that to someone else and they're like, I don't get it. It just sounds like weird sounds, which is insanity to me. But I just think that's interesting in a film. You can have that disassociation, because I feel like music is such a specific type of art that you can enjoy, to where your tastes can really determine that. So with all that being said, the songs with Maria, I didn't really like her voice, and just how high pitched a lot of those tracks were. I didn't enjoy. I mean, honestly, I didn't enjoy songs by any other group, but there was one, and I guess that'll lead into the performances. I think Maria, the performer that does her performance, does her character, I think she did amazing. Like, she's a wonderful actress. I'm not sure if this is her like first big role, but I've never seen her in anything before. She did magnificent. She was like the glue to the whole emotional arc. You know, I was invested in her relationship because of her, and the whole narrative because of her. And I think she did a wonderful job. And she actually did have one song that I liked, where she's like in this building and she's like cleaning. Again, no real spoilers, but that doesn't have anything to do with the actual narrative. Or, I mean, it doesn't really have to do with anything spoiler related. But she has a piece where she's cleaning, and you'll know it when you see it, that I really enjoyed. And she's kind of like talking about like, am I pretty? Am I beautiful? And actually that's one of the two pieces that I loved, was one of her pieces. So actually, maybe I started off wrong by saying I didn't like. But, you know, that was the one song where she didn't really hit the high notes as high as she does in the other ones. So, I don't know. It's a mixed bag. All the songs with Ansel Elgort, I talked about my bias against him earlier. I didn't really like, but I don't know if it's my bias that I just don't like looking at him. And I just don't like his performances in general. Yeah, I didn't connect with him at all. So, like, I was connecting with the lead actress, and I was like, all right, I'm game for this relationship. I feel you. I'm connected with you. And then Ansel would show up, and I'm like, all right, connection lost. I don't feel you that much. But, which is an interesting thing, because I feel like it's so weird. All the things I expected to love, I hated. And all the things I expected to hate, I loved. So I thought, all right, you know, Spielberg usually casts two strong characters in all his films. You know, like I feel like Spielberg does a really good job casting. This is probably like one of the worst casted films that I've felt for Spielberg, specifically on the Ansel Elgort, and then a lot of the characters, like, I don't know, I just didn't connect with them as much as I think I should have. And I get it's a musical, and like maybe it's the like melodrama that's like bubbling up, and maybe everyone's like overperforming, but it felt a little like too much for me. I don't know why. Like, so specifically Ansel Elgort, I didn't like any of his performances. I didn't connect with him emotionally. I didn't believe his relationship or his like intimate connection with Maria, the lead actress. Like, I didn't feel any chemistry. I did when I was looking at her and like her looking at him, but then when I saw him, it was like gone. And like it's just weird. Like, I believed her performance in loving him, but not his performance in loving her. If that makes any sense. I don't know. You know, I'm thinking about like Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone in La La Land. Like, I believed both of their energies connecting, and for some reason it made sense and it fit. And in this one, it didn't make sense, it didn't fit, and it was also very rushed. But I'll get to the narrative and story stuff later. I have like 7 minutes because I literally want to finish this in 30 minutes. But an interesting thing about the performances, I didn't like the main cast. I didn't like a lot of the main characters. Besides, Maria was great, now that I'm, you know, thinking about that. But the supporting actor of the, like, white gang, I forgot the names, God damn it. But anyways, the supporting actor who's, like, the new leader of the Caucasian gang, or whatever, I think he did amazing. Like, he's this, like, skinny, like, well, he's not skinny, you know, like, they're all, like, kind of ripped, like, skinny ripped. It's weird. That guy, I thought he did brilliant. Like, I loved his performance. I was so bought into his, like, dilemmas and his drama and his purpose and his mission, even though he was, like, confused racist, you know, with problematic ideas and ideals and, like, causing all this mayhem. But I loved his performance. I loved the actor who performed it, and I loved the energy that he brought to the screen. All that was amazing. And, like, that whole gang, all the individual actors in that gang and the white gang, I thought were phenomenal. I mean, they had the second song that I really loved, where they're in like in a police ward, and they're like kind of talking about like that they're sick and they're like demented, and you know, they have like social illness, psychological illness, like all this kind of stuff. That was my favorite musical piece. So that'd be number one, and then the Maria song while she's cleaning is number two. But that number one is a hard number one. Like, I was so in love with that piece, that the way all those actors performed it, the way all of them, you know, had their choreography, and the way the camera moved in that, and you'll see it if you see it, or you'll know what I'm talking about when you see that scene. That was like a 10 out of 10 scene. Like, I was like, oh my God, if the whole film could have been that scene, this would be number one of the year immediately, no questions asked. Beautiful, beautiful scene. And then I guess the other side of the gang, the Puerto Rican side, I don't know. I didn't like it because, I mean, I get it. I mean, you know, both sides have their like harsh accents, but there was something about the Puerto Rican accent that all the performers were giving that for some reason for me felt very forced and fake. And I don't know why. I don't know. It just felt like everyone was, I have to like think about it. And this is like the problem with like immediate reactions and impressions, because it's immediate. Like, I need time to like decompress. But I didn't like that whole side of this narrative because I don't know, like it just felt very cheesy. Like, it felt like what someone would say, oh, it's a Puerto Rican gang, and then they all act Puerto Rican, and they are a gang, and they have Puerto Rican accent. And I think it was because they all were so similar. But what I liked about the Caucasian gang is even though they all had the same personalities, and accent. There was variations in between them. Not just visually, like how they looked and the casting, but something about their voice. Like specifically how they spoke was individualistic. Like some had very deep pitches, some had very high pitches. And I think it was probably the same in the Puerto Rican side, but for some reason in the Puerto Rican side, there wasn't a lot of mini sub-characters. Where in the Caucasian group, there was the main leader, and then I feel like a lot of the individual members of the group had moments to shine and, like, you know, be a part of the musical and be a part of songs and, like, showcase their personalities. Where in the Puerto Rican side, there was seemingly only one, besides the leader, that I forgot his name, but, you know, he's very important towards the end. You'll know if you watch the movie what I'm talking about. He was, like, the only one to me that felt like he had some sort of arc. Not some sort of arc, but some sort of unique personality trait, where everyone else was just seemed like kind of like replicas of the main character. And I don't know, it's just all their accents were exactly the same and there was no variations, where I think that's kind of like what subconsciously made me feel like, they just feel so forced and fake. So there's Maria, and then she has like I guess a friend that's going out with her brother. She did amazing, and she had that uniqueness that I'm talking about, because the way she sang and the way she spoke was a variation of how everyone else spoke. So for some reason, all the female Puerto Ricans had that variation, where the male counterparts felt like they were all replicating each other too perfectly. Like if it almost felt like none of the, like, I don't know the casting or whatever, but it almost felt like none of them were really Puerto Rican, and then they all just trained and practiced the Puerto Rican accent, and then they all like fell in line. I don't know. That's just like a feeling. Maybe they're all Puerto Rican. I don't know. But that was probably like my only complaint on those two performance side. And then to get to the main narrative, what I thought about the main narrative. I mean, it's very predictable. And that's kind of a weakness and a fault. And again, I knew nothing about West Side Story. Absolutely nothing. And I consider myself kind of like a dumb viewer. When I'm watching something, I don't try to like anticipate or like perceive what's going to happen next. I'm just like brain off, consuming mode. And very early on in the film, I was like, oh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. And it happened exactly how I imagined it was going to happen. It was very predictable, very melodramatic, which I like melodrama. But I was expecting at least something kind of unique or weird. But again, I don't really think that's a fault, but just narratively it felt kind of weak, and it didn't feel like it had a lot of themes and ideas, obviously about the race and about, you know, community and Puerto Rican experience versus the Caucasian experience, and living in a neighborhood where there's like this clash of racialness. You know, it's very timely. And then the whole like relationship aspect of like Maria and Tony is the main character of the white gang. I mean, there's a lot of ideas and a lot of themes, and I'm not sure. Maybe the musical and the original stage play tackles it better. Maybe the original film adaptation tackles it better. But in this one, I assume it did everything. It covered all the ground, the same ground. But I still felt like it was kind of weak narratively with all the aspects. I mean, I think everything was there, but again, I think just some of the casting should have been different. Some of the performances should have been different to highlight different things. And then maybe it would like come into another level of greatness. I didn't feel really emotional about anything. And I think that was just my lack of connection with a lot of the main characters, specifically like Ansel Elgort and the lead Puerto Rican guy. The lead Puerto Rican actor. Like he was good, but I just felt like he was hamming it up too much. And that's like a weird line that I think when you're in a musical, when you're in the like musical part of your film, you know, and you're in the singing mode, I think that's fine when you're overacting. That's when you go theatrical. That's when you sing. That's when you are hitting your emotional cues at like a level 12. But I think when that goes away, when you're not in a musical, you're having a normal like discussion or dialogue or a normal scene of drama, I think that should go away. Like, I think it should go into reality. And then you bleed into a song. And then you express. You know, I think that's what I love about musicals. Maybe I'm just ignorant and confused, but I think that was another part of the disconnect emotionally that I had with the story, is that it felt like all of them were acting the same in and out of the songs, where the songs become an imaginary state of emotional expression, if that makes any sense. I don't know. The music, I guess the overall score, I really liked. I loved like the little cues that I talked about that like lends into that Spielberg magic feel, you know, when the cues of picking up objects or seeing objects or, you know, revelations, all that stuff was beautiful, amazing. The general score, the whole piece, I like, but again, I didn't like any of the songs. None of the songs were memorable. Like, I feel no urge to go back and like listen to the soundtrack on repeat. You know, like I remember the last amazing musical I watched, probably La La Land. And as soon as that film ended, not only was I in tears and crying, I just immediately listened to the whole soundtrack on repeat for weeks and weeks and weeks. You know, like so many songs in that film were stuck in my head. Same thing with like Sweeney Todd. And this, I don't know. Maybe this is a complaint of the original stage play. And actually, I think I will like go back. Hopefully one day I go back and watch the original adaptation of West Side Story. But then I also hope to one day, if I have time and if I can remember, I have a lot of stuff going on, but if I can remember to check out the original stage play, like maybe not the original performance, because I don't know when this was originally made, but you know, an actual theatrical expression of the songs. Maybe that would be interesting. I actually went back and like I've been watching on YouTube a lot of the Sweeney Todd songs in anticipation of this film, because I really love Sweeney Todd. That's one of my favorite musicals. And listening to the original like stage play incarnations of the songs with like legit like theatrical musical performers, it is insane. Like Sweeney Todd has like a deep voice. Johnny Depp, as much as I love his performance in Sweeney Todd, he does not have a deep voice at all. So it was like such a unique and distinct expression of all the songs I love, and in a completely different tone. So that's awesome. So I mean, maybe that'll improve the songs and lyrics in this if I have that different expression to consume. So with all that being said, I think I kind of covered everything. I'm already 35 minutes in. I'm just gonna cut it short right now. So what would I give this out of 10? What's my review? Or I guess before that, I wanted to like have like a little recommendations section. If you are a huge fan of Spielberg, like you love Spielberg, I think you should probably watch this film just to see the visuals and to get that Spielberg rush. I think it still has that Spielberg magic, and I know we're all dying for that. Like I don't think there will ever be another filmmaker to capture that sensation, because it's uniquely Spielberg. So if you want to feel that again, you should probably watch this film. Just be aware that you might not like the songs, you might not like the music, and you might not like the narrative. If you're a fan of Spielberg and amazing cinematography and visuals and editing, you'll love it. If you love the original musical, I'm not sure how faithful this is, so I can't really note, but it feels like it's pretty faithful. Like it feels like a faithful adaptation, and it feels like it's ripped from a stage play. Like none of it felt like lesser or weaker in a way. Like I was thinking about like the Lion King remake and how a lot of those songs felt shortened and like readapted to kind of fit almost as like a non-musical, even though the original was a musical. This didn't feel like that. This feels very authentic. Again, I don't know, so that's just I don't know. But so if you're a fan of the musical and the original songs or the original narrative, then I think this is like a win-win. Like if you love that, then I think you'll love what Spielberg does with it, I think. So yeah, I'd recommend it to those two groups. If you hate musicals and you don't really care for Spielberg or the visuals and cinematography, maybe you should skip it. Those are my recommendations. So my final review and rating, well, not my final rating, but my initial review and rating. What would I give this out of 10 just now coming out? Oh man, this is difficult. It's very difficult thinking about what I would score this film, because it was a roller coaster. I guess I'll say my final thoughts is this is Spielberg magic visually and editing and composition wise and cinematography. But, huge but, big but, times two, I think it's one of the weakest musicals I've ever heard. And again, maybe something's up with this, or the interpretation's messed up, but I didn't like most of the songs besides two of them that I've noted, one with Maria and one with the gang when they're in a police ward. Other than that, actively disliked every song. I just didn't capture me, I didn't feel, I didn't connect, and I didn't really care for them. So with all that being said, it's so hard to rate, because like there's moments in this film where visually I was so captivated. Like as a filmmaker wannabe, it like there was a spark in my eye. Wow. Oh, and that's one last thing before I give my rating. This film was so beautiful, and it was so well captured on film, on celluloid, that it is stunning. Like I forgot how beautiful film looks. Thank you, Spielberg, for shooting this on film and reminding me how beautiful it is. I mean, there were so many shots where I was like, wow, you could not do this digitally. Like, I'm sorry, Roger Deakins, but you cannot do this digitally. Like there's just some sort of magic in film that I think Spielberg showcases in this film. And if you're a film fan, like the actual film, you should definitely watch this. It is a mind-numbing experience of beauty of that aesthetic. If you love that aesthetic, it's here. And it's just like raw. It's just slapping you in the face. It was slapping me in the face left and right. Every close-up shot, I was like, oh my god. Like, it was like overdosing on candy is what it felt like for me. So with all that being said, still think a lot of the film had a lot of flaws with me. I think I'd give it, right now, immediately, what is my gut saying? It's saying a 7 out of 10. It was a good film with beautiful, amazing moments. Most of those felt Spielbergian, which is an insane thing to say because it's been so long since I felt that magic and wonder in film capture. So yeah, 7 out of 10. I'd recommend it to those people. Thank you for listening to me ramble. It's been so long, so I'm really tired. Yeah, thank you so much. Hopefully this comes out by the time this movie is still out, or it's available somewhere else. But yeah, thank you, and have a good day, and let me know if you watched this film, if you liked it, if you agree with my takes or opinions, or you don't agree with my takes and opinions. Let me know. Let's have a discussion down in the comments. Like and subscribe. And yeah, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, and let's talk about Spielberg.